Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling one of those questions that really gets under your skin, doesn't it? A classic conundrum. Can money genuinely change a person's personality?
It's a huge one. And we've all seen those headlines, the lottery winner who just vanishes into seclusion, or maybe the self-made billionaire who seems like a totally different person afterwards.
Right. And then, on the flip side, you have that friend. Maybe they come into some money, maybe they lose everything, and they just seem exactly the same, still grounded.
Exactly. Those stories really spark this curiosity about money's true power over who we are.
And that's the core tension we're really diving into today. Does money fundamentally, rewire you? Or does it simply reveal something, or maybe amplify what was already there?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question and one we see play out all the time.
So our mission for this deep dive is to explore exactly that. We'll look at compelling human stories, pull in insights from psychology, even touch on the cultural narratives that shape how we think about wealth and self.
It's really about trying to understand that nuanced impact, isn't it?
Definitely. But let's maybe lay some groundwork first, because
Yeah.
to really unpack whether money changes personality, we need to be clear on what we mean by personality.
Which way?
We're talking about that unique blend, right? That sort of distinct blueprint of traits, behaviors, thought patterns that make you, well, you.
Yeah.
Your psychological signature, maybe, your default setting.
Right. It's how you consistently react, how you engage with the world, your natural response to stress, how you are in social situations, all that. And psychologists often use the Big Five framework to talk about these stable traits.
Ah, the big five. That's the go-to, isn't it? Can you just briefly run through what those are, why they're sort of foundational here?
Absolutely. So the Big Five are openness, that's about curiosity, creativity, and conscientiousness, organization, dependability, extroversion, how outgoing or reserved you are, agreeableness, kindness, cooperativeness, and finally neuroticism, which relates to emotional stability and how you react to stress. And these are generally seen as pretty stable through adulthood. They're shaped by, genetics, upbringing, life experiences,
Mm-hmm.
but they tend to stick, like a fingerprint of your psyche, kind of.
So when we ask if money can change personality, we're really asking something deeper than just, surface behavior. Can a big shift in finances, a huge windfall or a devastating loss, actually alter these fundamental core traits?
Exactly. Can it genuinely transform who you are at that deep, essential level?
That's the core question.
Precisely. Money isn't just cash. It's a powerful tool, right? A
Mhm.
catalyst. It can open doors. It can relieve immense stress or create entirely new stressors. It can definitely amplify behaviors. But does it reshape your essence? That's what we're digging into.
It's a really compelling thought. So where do we start? I think maybe the natural place is to first look at the argument that money can change a person, or at least it really seems to.
Absolutely. Because those stories are everywhere, aren't they? And they make you wonder if there's a genuine transformation going on.
Yeah, one key area is how new opportunities can lead to shifting selves.
Right. Think about it. Vast wealth often throws people into totally new environments, new social
There would
circles.
simply be different worlds sometimes.
And that kind of exposure, it can reshape actions, even how you think. It's like being dropped into a completely different ecosystem.
Totally. Take Sarah, for instance. Let's imagine her. 32, elementary school teacher, Nebraska. Known for being kind, empathetic, pretty shy. A classic introvert, happy with her life.
Sounds very grounded. Then let's say in 2022, bam, Sarah wins $15 million in the lottery.
15 million. Huge change. Suddenly she's moving to Chicago, gets a fancy high-rise condo, starts mingling with the city elite, attending Dallas art openings.
A universe away from Nebraska potlucks.
Hmm.
And she adapts, right? Maybe trades cardigans for designer stuff, starts speaking up confidently, even takes a leadership role in a nonprofit.
And her old friends back home, they notice, they see the confidence, sure, but maybe also she seems a bit flashier, less attentive. There's a new boldness, maybe an edge that wasn't there.
To them, it really could seem like money just transformed Sarah, made her a different person.
But the question is it a fundamental personality change? Or is it something else? Is she just adapting?
That's the crux, isn't it? Her wealth put her in a world where, frankly, extroversion and assertiveness are often more valued for getting ahead socially.
So she adjusted.
She adjusted to fit in, a bit like a chameleon changing colors, maybe.
Hmm.
Her core empathy might still be there, but it's expressed differently because the context demands it. The stage changed, so her performance changed too.
That chameleon metaphor feels right. So it's about external demands shaping how internal traits look on the outside.
And research kind of backs this up, yeah. Studies do show upward mobility can lead to observable shifts, particularly in extroversion and agreeableness. People adopt behaviors valued by their new groups.
Makes sense. And it's not just lottery winners, right? Entrepreneurs, people getting big promotions. That freedom to say no or demand more can definitely bring out behaviors that seem new.
That ripple effect is powerful. Now, beyond just new opportunities, money also massively impacts our emotional state. It can be a huge stress reliever or, ironically, a creator of new anxieties.
Yes. Which brings us to the next point. Stress, security, and those emotional
The
fluctuations.
stress factor is enormous. Let's consider Jake. Say he's 28, from a tough part of Detroit. Always cautious, anxious, highly vigilant may be traits that helped him navigate a difficult upbringing. Worrying about rent, his mom's medical bills.
Constant pressure. Then maybe in 2024, his little tech startup, this app he built, sells for $5 million. dollars.
Wow. Overnight, that crushing weight of financial stress just evaporates. He pays off the bills, moves somewhere safer, probably sleeps properly for the first time in years.
And his friends, they'd notice a huge difference.
Absolutely. He becomes relaxed,
Mhm.
genuinely outgoing, cracking jokes, taking risks like skydiving maybe, hosting parties. The anxious, guarded Jake seems gone, replaced by this carefree, adventurous guy.
It really feels like money flipped a switch. But psychologically, what's going on there?
Well, the financial security likely significantly reduced his neuroticism, that underlying anxiety. Without the constant survival pressure, he's free to let other parts of himself shine through. Maybe latent traits like humor, curiosity.
It's like money removed this heavy cloak he was wearing.
Exactly. Allowing his true self to breathe. He wasn't necessarily a new person, just maybe Jake without the crushing weight of poverty that had been suppressing parts of him. And research strongly supports this clear links between financial security, lower anxiety, higher life satisfaction.
And it works in reverse too, right? We have an example of Maria, say, 45, confident, outgoing lawyer in New York. Then her firm collapses, she loses her
And
savings.
suddenly she becomes irritable, withdrawn, maybe even paranoid,
Yeah.
snapping at friends.
Yeah. The stress just seems to change her completely.
It does seem to. The intense stress of that loss likely amplified her neuroticism, diminished her extroversion, temporarily burying her core confidence. But research suggests those core traits are probably dormant, waiting for stability to return. It's more of a temporary burying, not a fundamental rewrite.
Okay, that distinction is important. Let's consider another powerful influence. The seduction of power and status. Money often comes with power, and power can really alter behavior in ways that look like a personality overhaul.
Oh, power is fascinating. It can corrupt, or at least it's a great amplifier. Take Tom, 42, middle manager, Ohio.
Hmm.
Always agreeable, team player, maybe a bit of a people pleaser. Brought donuts to meetings.
Totally get the type. Then, say in 2021, huge promotion, VP, seven-figure salary, corner office, big shift.
Massive shift in status and authority.
Hmm.
And over time, Tom changes, starts barking orders, dismissing ideas he once championed, acting entitled, expecting his assistant to fetch coffee without even a please.
And the team whispers, money went to his head. His agreeableness seems gone, replaced by arrogance.
Classic scenario. But again, is it a genuine personality shift or something else?
What's the thinking there?
Well, it's likely less about his core personality fundamentally changing and more about power dynamics. Studies show people in positions of power often become less empathetic, more self-focused.
Why is that?
It seems to be because they become less reliant on others' approval. Tom's wealth and status gave him control, and he leaned into behaviors as suited to that powerful role. He didn't need to be agreeable anymore, maybe.
So the power stripped away the need for agreeableness, revealing something else, like dominance.
Possibly. It revealed or amplified more dominant traits that were perhaps less visible before. The takeaway could be, power often changes the behavioral equation.
And this isn't just corporate VPs, right? Small business owner lands a huge contract, freelancer goes viral.
Exactly. That newfound ability to say no or demand more can make you seem more assertive, maybe even colder to people who knew you before. Tom's story shows how money, especially when bundled with power, can amplify traits like dominance or self-interest.
Okay, another aspect, maybe less obvious, is the isolation of wealth. This one's kind of surprising. Wealth can actually be lonely, and that can reshape how you present yourself.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? More money, more friends. Not always the case. Consider Emily, say 30, graphic designer in Austin, warm, social, free spirit, life of the party type.
Love it. Then 2023, her viral app sells for $10 million. Incredible success.
But then come the complications.
Yeah.
Friends she hadn't heard from in years suddenly call asking for loans. Distant relatives crawl out of the woodwork. She gets bombarded by sketchy investors. The vultures descend.
Ugh, that sounds stressful.
Extremely. So, to protect herself, Emily eventually moves to a gated community, becomes way more selective about who she trusts.
And over time, she changes, becomes less bubbly, more guarded, maybe a bit cynical.
Yeah, and her old friends start feeling she's become distant, maybe even snobby.
But psychologically, what's happening? Is it a personality shift?
Not necessarily fundamental. What we might be seeing is Emily adapting to the isolation that often comes with sudden wealth. It's a defense mechanism. Research suggests wealthier people often report feeling more isolated, which can lead to defensiveness or reduced openness.
So her core extroversion is still there, but it's being modulated by this need to protect herself from being seen as just a walking ATM.
Precisely. It shows how wealth can kind of build a wall, forcing an adaptation toward self-protection.
That's a harsh reality. And it could work in reverse too, right? Financial loss leading to social withdrawal or bitterness, even if the core person hasn't shifted.
Absolutely. Emily's story highlights how money, or its absence, creates a social bubble that shapes how your personality gets perceived and expressed. And finally, under this change argument, there's the temptation of materialism. Money can pull people towards a materialistic lifestyle, which, on the surface, looks like a personality shift.
The lure of shiny things. Okay, let's look at Alex, a 27, laid-back, creative barista in Seattle. Valued experiences over stuff.
Right. Then, 2024, inherits $2 million. Initially, he uses it for travel, funding art projects, things aligned with his values.
Sounds good so far.
But then things start to shift. Buys a luxury SUV, fancy watch, maybe a penthouse. His social media fills with flashy posts. Starts hanging with a new, status-obsessed crowd.
And the old friends feel he's become shallow. Total 180 from the free-spirited barista.
It certainly seems like it. Has his personality genuinely changed? Studies suggest materialism often stems more from external pressures, social comparison, cultural norms, rather than a deep core change. Alex's wealth exposed him to a world where status symbols mattered, and he may be unconsciously conformed.
So if his circumstances changed again?
The argument is his free spirit might resurface, suggesting his core personality was consistent and just expressed differently in that new consumer landscape. It's less a fundamental change, more a new expression driven by the context.
Okay, those examples definitely make a powerful case for the appearance of change, at least. But let's flip the script. What about the argument that money doesn't fundamentally change personality? That it just reveals or amplifies who you were all along?
Yes, the amplification theory. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. The core idea is your fundamental traits are pretty hardwired, and money just turns up the volume on what's already inside.
Okay, give me an example of that.
All right, consider Lisa, 38-year-old nurse in Atlanta, always incredibly generous, almost to a fault, just a genuinely kind soul. In 2023, Lisa inherits $3 million. Does she become a snob?
Go on wild spending sprees.
Based on the theory, probably not.
You got it. Lisa immediately sets up a foundation for homeless youth, funds nursing scholarships, keeps hosting community barbecues. Her friends just say, that's Lisa being Lisa, just with more zeros.
Money just gave her more tools for her existing generosity.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with Greg, 40-year-old salesman, always kind of selfish, hogged the spotlight, conveniently forgot to split the bill, that type. Greg wins $8 million in poker, first moves, buys a mansion, a yacht, cuts off struggling family members who ask for help.
Ouch.
His friends just roll their eyes. Classic Greg, just with fancier toys.
So in both cases, money didn't change them, it just amplified what was already there.
Yeah.
Lisa's generosity, Greg's self-centeredness, wealth just gave them a bigger stage. That's the essence of the amplification theory. Money doesn't change you, it just turns up the volume on who you already are. And this is pretty well supported by research. Core personality traits generally remain remarkably stable over time, even with major life events. Money opens avenues for expression, but doesn't usually rewrite your fundamental makeup.
That makes a lot of sense. And it ties into the next point, doesn't it? The stability of core traits. Psychologists mostly agree personality is pretty consistent by adulthood. Those big five traits don't just swing wildly unless something extreme happens, right? Like a brain injury or years of intensive therapy.
Well, generally, yeah. Getting rich or going broke, while significant, usually isn't enough to completely overhaul your core psychological structure. Think back to Sarah, our lottery winner, her newfound confidence. Likely situational adaptation. Take away the wealth, and it's highly plausible Nebraska Sarah would return pretty quickly.
So her core's still there, just maybe.
Yeah.
Dressed up differently for the Chicago scene.
That's a good way to put it. Longitudinal studies, tracking people over decades, show wealth influences lifestyle and behavior, sure, but not core traits significantly over the long haul. Sarah's boldness is likely her underlying openness adapting to new demands. And the same stability likely holds for Maria, the lawyer who lost everything. Her confidence and drive are probably dormant, waiting for things to stabilize.
Okay, so if it's not fundamentally changing who we are, what is creating these dramatic shifts we perceive? I keep thinking about Mike, the plumber. For him, it seemed less about the cash itself and more about the whole new world it dropped him into.
That's a critical point. It brings us to context is king. Often it's not the money itself, but the context it creates that makes people seem different.
Right, Mike. 35, friendly plumber in Denver, laid-back guy.
Then his business lands a huge contract, makes him $4 million, moves his family to a fancy suburb where neighbors are obsessed with appearances. Suddenly, Mike's dressing sharper, networking at the country club, taking up golf, which he hates.
And his old buddies think he's gone bougie, stuck up. But Mike insists he's the same guy inside.
This is a perfect example of social role theory. We all adjust our behavior to fit roles.
Right.
Think about how you act at a formal wedding versus a backyard barbecue. Same person, different role, different behavior. Money often throws you into entirely new roles with new expectations.
So he's playing the role the new context demands.
Exactly. His laid-back nature is likely still there. If you move back tomorrow, the jeans and beer vibe would probably return instantly. And this applies to poverty, too. Appearing humbler might be necessity, not personality. The insight is, your personality might be stable, but the social role money puts you in can definitely change your behavior.
Okay. And linked to that, these apparent changes are often more about values and choices, not personality itself. It's about how more resources let existing values play out louder.
Precisely. Let's imagine Rachel.
Yeah.
33, Miami entrepreneur. Always ambitious, driven, maybe a bit ruthless, laser-focused. In 2024, her eco-fashion brand goes public, makes her a billionaire overnight. She starts making headlines. Lavish parties, aggressive deals, private jet. Friends say she's too big for her britches.
But was it a real change?
Probably not fundamentally. Her ambition and drive were always there. Money just gave her a much bigger platform to act those out. Research finds wealth tends to amplify existing values. If you value status, money lets you chase it harder. If you value relationships, you might use wealth to strengthen them. Rachel's choices align with her long-standing priorities, just on a much grander scale.
Consistent with who she always was, just bigger. Okay. And finally, under this no-change argument, there's the role of emotional intelligence, or EI.
Yes, EI. It acts like an anchor. People with high EI, self-aware, empathetic, good at managing their emotions, tend to stay remarkably consistent, regardless of finances.
Like Priya, the Silicon Valley success story we touched on.
Exactly. Despite immense wealth, her high EI helped her stay relatively grounded, especially when she focused on mentoring. Her self-awareness let her catch herself slipping into status-driven behaviors and course-correct.
Because she was tuned in to her own values. And research backs this. High EI means less dramatic behavioral shifts with wealth changes.
Significantly less likely, yes, because they're better at aligning actions with core values. Contrast that with Greg, our selfish salesman. His potentially lower EI meant he was less aware of his impact, letting wealth amplify his self-centeredness without much reflection. EI really can't be that anchor.
Those points really make a strong case against fundamental change. It does seem more about amplification and context. Still, the perception of change is so powerful.
It really is. Let's maybe dive into some more detailed stories now. These are composites inspired by real patterns that illustrate this complex interplay really well.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, the lottery winner spiral, David. Imagine him. 40-year-old mechanic, small-town Ohio, hard-working, loyal, maybe a bit reserved, salt-of-the-earth guy.
Got it. Then, 2018, wins $50 million. Huge sum. Initially, he's sensible, pays off the mortgage, new truck, college funds. Friends think David's still David.
Right. But then things shift. He gets bombarded. Requests for loans, charity pitches, sob stories from strangers. He starts feeling paranoid, wondering who's genuine. The pressure builds.
That sounds intense.
To escape, he moves to a gated community in Florida, cuts ties with his old life. New friends emerge, people drawn to the high roller lifestyle. David finds himself at yacht parties, wearing flashy watches, gambling big sums.
Whoa, total departure.
His old buddies barely recognize him. More confident, sure, but also distant, arrogant maybe, snapping at waiters, bragging about wealth. By 2022, his marriage is crumbling. He's blown through half the money. Stressed, cynical, lost.
A true cautionary tale. His friends are convinced the money turned him into a jerk, but was it that simple?
David's story shows how the pressure, the perceived betrayal, the influence of new circles pushed him to adapt in ways that felt unnatural to his core self. He was reacting to chaos. When he eventually started therapy, say in 2023, he began reconnecting with his old values, loyalty, simplicity. Slowly, the old David started to reappear.
So his personality wasn't rewritten, just buried, suppressed by the chaos money brought.
That's the interpretation. The core David was still in there. It underscores how money can create this perfect storm that looks like a personality change, but it's more a complex, often painful adaptation.
Okay, that's powerful. What's next?
Our second story is the self-made millionaire, Priya. We mentioned her. 35, software engineer, grew up middle class in Bangalore. Always ambitious, curious, meticulous.
Silicon Valley success story. Moves there, works hard, and in 2025, her AI startup sells for $200 million. Multimillionaire.
Initially, she uses the wealth for her passions. Funding tech education for kids, traveling, investing in startups. Still the driven, curious Priya, just with more impact.
Using it for good, seems like.
But the unique pressures of Silicon Valley wealth start creeping in. Demanding investors, social media scrutiny, the elite circles. To cope, she becomes more guarded, less trusting. Maybe snaps at employees, prioritizes deals over relationships, starts valuing status symbols more.
So her outward behavior changes significantly. Less warm, more ruthless, maybe cold.
To outsiders, it could look that way. But her inner circle might observe her perfectionism and ambition were always there. Money just provided a bigger stage, maybe warped a bit by the intense pressure.
And did she stay that way?
Let's say she took a sabbatical in 2026, dedicated time to mentoring. Her warmth and genuine nature quickly returned. Her core personality didn't seem to change fundamentally. Rather, it was significantly shaped, maybe masked, by that high-stakes world. It echoes stories of tech moguls who seem to change under the spotlight but revert when they step back.
That Silicon Valley context is intense. Okay, next story.
Let's talk about the fall from grace, Carlos. 50-year-old real estate mogul in Miami. Charismatic, confident, maybe a bit narcissistic.
Right.
Always the center of attention. Built a fortune.
The king of his castle.
Then, 2023, market crash wipes out most of his wealth. Forced sales, shrinking social circle, influence gone. Poof.
How does he react?
He becomes better. Lashes out at family, obsesses over losses, increases drinking. His charming extroversion twists into angry outbursts. Friends are convinced the loss of money profoundly changed him.
Sounds like it turned him nasty. But did it change him or reveal something else?
Well, his narcissism and need for attention were likely always present. Without the money to fuel them or provide that grand stage, they manifested more destructively. The negative side emerged when the prop was removed.
But did anything change later?
Let's say by 2025, he starts rebuilding with a smaller venture. Remarkably, as he focuses, his charisma starts to return. It suggests his personality didn't fundamentally shift. It adapted to the challenge, showing underlying traits could reemerge, even on a smaller scale. The drive was still there.
Fascinating. And finally, a different kind of story.
Yes, the refreshing story of the humble billionaire, Anita. 60-year-old retiree, Minnesota. Always frugal, kind, community-focused, a Midwestern gem. Okay. In 2020, a small biotech investment she made quietly skyrockets. Makes her a billionaire. Whoa.
Retired to billionaire. Quietly. That quietly feels key.
It is. Unlike David or Priya, Anita doesn't drastically change her lifestyle. Stays in her modest home, drives her old car, keeps volunteering. She anonymously donates millions, funds local schools, continues hosting potlucks.
Just kept being Anita.
Exactly. Her friends observe she's the same Anita, just with a much bigger checkbook. Her story shows money doesn't always shift behavior. Her high agreeableness, conscientiousness, strong values kept her grounded. She was her own anchor.
Like Warren Buffett, maybe?
Exactly. Research confirms people with strong EI and clear values are less likely to show big behavioral shifts with wealth. Their personality acts as a powerful anchor. Anita proves personality can be incredibly resilient, especially when your sense of self isn't tied to external stuff.
Those stories really drive home the complexity. Okay, so after all that, what does the science really say about this dance between money and personality? Let's unpack the research a bit more. What are the mechanisms at play?
It's definitely not just one simple thing. A major factor is self-concept and identity. How you see yourself plays a huge role.
Like David starting to see himself as a rich guy.
Precisely. And that new self-perception seemed to fuel those flashy behaviors. Research suggests wealth can shift self-concept, especially if your identity is closely tied to financial status. If being rich becomes who you are, your actions might align with that image.
But when that identity is challenged, like when David lost money, his old self resurfaced.
Strongly implying the core personality hadn't genuinely changed. Maria, the lawyer, also tied her identity to her wealth, so losing it caused big internal shifts.
Okay, what else is at play scientifically?
Then there's social comparison and envy. Money definitely intensifies this. Keeping up with the Joneses, it may be on steroids.
Right, Priya in Silicon Valley comparing herself to other tech moguls, pushing her to chase status.
Could be. Studies find wealthier individuals are often more likely to engage in social comparison, which can foster competitiveness or entitlement.
And for those who lose money, like Carlos, comparing his current self to his former wealthy, self-fueled bitterness.
Exactly. Money amplifies these comparisons, making personalities seem different.
What about adapting over time? Does that initial shock wear off?
That brings us to the hedonic treadmill. You hear this with happiness, but it applies here too. People tend to adapt to new circumstances, positive or negative, and often return to a baseline level of happiness and maybe personality expression.
So the initial euphoria of winning the lottery or the despair of losing everything eventually fades.
Research suggests it often does. Lottery winners often return to pre-win happiness levels after a few years. David's flashy phase was temporary. As the novelty wore off, his original traits reemerged. We tend to adapt back to our baseline.
That's kind of comforting. What about culture? Does that play a role?
Hugely. Cultural influences significantly shape how money affects personality.
How so?
Well, in individualistic cultures like the U.S., wealth is often linked to personal achievement, autonomy. So it might amplify assertiveness, independence. Whereas in more collectivist cultures, like parts of Asia, wealth might prompt more generosity or community focus because the group is more central. Different values lead to different expressions of wealth.
So Priya's experience might have been different in Bangalore versus Silicon Valley.
Quite possibly. The intensely competitive, individualistic environment there likely played a role. Studies find wealth's impact varies depending on cultural values.
Fascinating. Is there anything happening in the brain itself, like chemically?
There is. Finally, there's a neurological aspect. The role of dopamine and reward. Money can powerfully impact the brain's reward system, affecting behavior without necessarily altering core personality.
How does that work?
Wealth, especially when tied to status or power, can boost dopamine, the feel-good chemical. This rush reinforces certain behaviors. So acting powerful like Tom or buying luxury items like Alex feels good chemically, making those behaviors more likely to repeat.
So it looks like a personality change, but it's partly a neurological response to new rewards.
Exactly. It's a response to new stimuli, not necessarily a deep alteration of the self.
Wow. Okay, this whole fascination with money and personality isn't just psychological, is it? It's deeply embedded in our culture. Stories, movies, TV. It's how we process this question.
Absolutely. These cultural touchstones reveal a lot. In literature, think about Pip and Dickens' Great Expectations. Poor orphan gets rich, becomes a snob, abandons old friends. Wealth fuels his arrogance.
But crucially, by the end, after losing his fortune, he's brought back to his roots, right? Rediscovers his kindness. It fits that amplification idea flaws were there. Money just spotlighted them. Still resonates today.
Definitely. And movies. Modern, maybe extreme example is The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort.
Oh, yeah. Wild ride. Hungry broker turns into this hedonistic millionaire.
His wealth enables extreme excess, sure, but his core traits, ambition, charisma, ruthlessness, were clearly there from the start. The seeds were planted early.
The film suggests money didn't change him. It just let him be his absolute worst self on a grand scale. Even when he loses it all, that charisma persists. Consistent personality just amplified.
And reality TV loves this stuff. Lottery shows, Rich Kids of Beverly Hills.
Prime territory. They thrive on showing how wealth brings out drama, entitlement, recklessness, or sometimes surprising generosity, like those shows where families get a lump sum.
A social experiment in real time. Some hoard it, others share it immediately, revealing their values. Rich Kids shows spoiled heirs, but sometimes glimpses of vulnerability too. It reinforces the idea that money amplifies what's already there, rather than creating someone new. Makes for good TV, watching those amplified traits.
And social media, .x, Instagram.
A goldmine for watching how money shapes public personas. Influencers go from obscurity to wealth. Some seem to turn arrogant, but look at their old posts, often hints of ego were already there.
And the flip side too, millionaires who stay relatable.
Yeah, like a tech founder sharing humble tips. Research suggests social media can exaggerate wealth's impact because people curate personas. Money isn't changing them, it's amplifying their performance for a public stage.
Okay, so after diving deep into all the stories, psychology, culture, a crucial theme keeps emerging. The role of choice and awareness. Money presents options, but it doesn't compel a personality change.
That's a really key takeaway, I think. Money opens doors, provides resources, removes constraints, sure, but individuals ultimately choose how to navigate that. We still have agency.
Right. David could have chosen to stay grounded, set boundaries. Priya could have consciously prioritized mentoring over status. Carlos could have chosen resilience over bitterness after his loss.
The choice was there, even if it was incredibly hard. And evidence supports this. Self-awareness and intentional choices significantly reduce money's behavioral impact. Reflecting on values through therapy, journaling, honest conversations makes people less likely to act out of character because of wealth or poverty. Being mindful helps.
It really does. And this loops back to emotional intelligence, right? Anita stayed true because she was deeply aware of her values. Therapy helped David reconnect. Priya's sabbatical brought her back.
Exactly. EI is crucial. And having a good support system, too.
Definitely. Strong support systems, friends, family, mentors, they remind you of your true self. When money pulls you in new directions or hardship makes you want to retreat, don't underestimate your core group.
Absolutely. And it's vital to acknowledge, as we saw with Anita, the exceptions. People who seem immune to money-induced shifts.
Yeah.
The Warren Buffetts.
Right. Buffett's still living modestly in Omaha. Keanu Reeves giving millions away, staying down to earth.
And it's not just billionaires. Think of everyday heroes, a teacher facing hardship, but staying cheerful and generous.
Why do they seem immune?
Because their sense of self, their identity, is stronger and more rooted than their bank balance. Research confirms high EI, strong values act as powerful anchors. They're less likely to show behavioral shifts. And it works both ways. Poverty doesn't have to change your core positive traits either. Personality can be incredibly resilient, especially when grounded in self-awareness and purpose.
So after this whole deep dive, the answer to, does money change personality? It seems to be a nuanced, really, but it can certainly feel like it. Your core traits, that big five essence, are remarkably stable. Money doesn't magically rewrite your DNA.
The core seems incredibly resilient, but it absolutely can change how those traits show up. It's like putting a filter on a photo underlying image is the same, but the vibe, the perception, can look totally different.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. Okay, so let's recap the key takeaways.
First, money amplifies what's already there. Lisa's generosity, Greg's selfishness, both got louder with wealth. It turns up the volume.
Second, it creates new contexts. Sarah in high society, Mike in the upscale suburb, they adapted their behaviors. The stage changes the performance.
Third, behavioral shifts are often about choices. Rachel's flashy life reflected her existing values amplified by resources, not a new personality. It's how you choose to use the resources.
And finally, it's not universal. Anita, Warren Buffett, they stayed consistent because their values and self-awareness were stronger anchors. Their anchors held firm.
Money is undeniably powerful. It can open doors, create stress, tempt you with status, making you seem different. But at your core, you are still you. David, Priya, Carlos, their stories show money's impact depends on context, choices, self-awareness. It's about how you navigate it.
Exactly. It's not the cash itself, but how you navigate the world it creates. So whether you're dreaming of millions or just managing the bills, remember you have power in how money shapes your story. Maybe we can offer a few practical tips based on all this to help you stay true to yourself.
Good idea. First, know your values. Seriously, write down what matters: family, integrity, creativity, whatever. Review it often. Ensure your choices align. Keeps your internal compass calibrated, like Priya using mentoring to ground herself.
Second, build a strong support system. Surround yourself with people who know the real you through thick and thin. David's old friends could have helped if he hadn't isolated himself. Honest friends offer accountability, keep you authentic. Don't ditch your real friends.
Third, practice self-awareness. Therapy if needed, journaling, meditation, just quiet reflection. These help you recognize when money's influence might be leading you astray. Could have helped curb Carlos's bitterness earlier, maybe. Check in with yourself.
Fourth, set boundaries. Learn to say no confidently. No to exploitation, no to misaligned social circles, no to external pressure. Emily's struggle showed how crucial this is for protecting your well-being and authenticity. Protect your space, your values.
Fifth, use money as a tool, not an identity. Carlos tied his identity to his wealth, which was part of his downfall. View money as a resource, a means to achieve goals, support values, not something that defines your self-worth. Money is something you have, not something you are.
Sixth, give back. Acts of generosity, time, skills, money if you can. Like Anita showed, giving anchors you to positive values, reinforces positive traits. Research even shows it boosts well-being. Good for others, good for you.
And finally, number 7, stay curious. Keep learning. Commit to personal growth. Openness helps you adapt gracefully to changes in fortune without losing your core self, like Priya's travels and quest for knowledge even amidst pressure. Keep growing.
Ultimately, money can open doors, cause anxiety, create new ones. It can tempt you, push you into new roles, amplify traits, make you appear profoundly changed. But who you are at your core, your unique psychological signature, is incredibly resilient. The ultimate impact isn't magical transformation, but about your self-awareness, your choices, and how you navigate the world it creates.
Well said. It's a journey, and you're always the captain. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.